This week on the Digital Marketing Scoop, we're talking with Kim O'Mahony about building a marketing strategy. Kim, very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. For having me.
So I suppose, Kim, just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
So my background, I suppose, was originally in market research. So I worked in an ad agency, creating insights, qualitative and quantitative research for clients. So qualitative would be like focus groups and things like that, and running online research communities, which was quite cool at the time. But very normal now. And then quantitative, so things like brand tracker surveys or custom surveys for clients. And they would have been anyone from O2 to Mondelez, or we did a bit of work with Green Giant. There was like endless amounts of people we did work with.
All pretty big, strong brands.
Yeah, and then we would also support the planning team and things like pitching for work. So like we did a big pitch for Aer Lingus one year, and that was fun. And we had Meteor at the time, and Nissan, Renault. So really big clients. Yeah, it was really good fun. And then I kind of wanted to move. I always wanted to be Don Draper. I wanted to be that person. And I was
no
looking.
whiskey today, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's all right. I'll find one when I get home. But yeah, I wanted to be that person. I always knew I wanted to be the person to say, this is the idea, this is the story. But, little did I know that planners, which is what Don Draper is, he was actually an account director at the time, but they used to be the guy who told the story, but now it's strategic planners. So they'll guide the client through what their brand story is and how that's going to live and breathe through the creative. And then they'll engage people like Cliq to bring that to life digitally. So little did I know that actually, to be a great planner, you have to have lots of other background experience. So sometimes, I met planners who were astrophysicists, economists, philosophers, but my personal background was research. So Don Draper, I don't know if you remember the episodes, there was always this German researcher who'd come in with a big pile of paper saying, the insights shows that, blah, blah, blah. So that's actually really important. And you can only, talk with fluidity around what your brand narrative is going to be if you actually have taken the time to do that research. So that's what I was doing.
Cool.
And then I moved into an innovation agency called Jump, which was definitely the most challenging and most rewarding place I've ever worked. And they created products and then created all the brand positioning around them. And of course, part of that was research. Trend analysis, primary research, secondary research, and I absolutely loved it there, and I loved the 80-hour weeks as well. I did, but that was amazing, and we created products like protein milk there. We did a lot of the groundwork for the 3+ loyalty program, a lot of innovation for companies like Diageo, AIB. So really cut my teeth there on what is a brand, how do we talk about it. And how do we create activity neutral briefs that can be used to brief people like Cliq.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I ended up in Cork, kind of left for love, and then realised Cork were like, you do what now? Who, Draper? Because the planning world is not really that established in Cork, and what I found when I came down here was everyone was in a do mindset and not a think space at all. So I had to work really hard to sell the value of the think before the do. And that was a difficult sell, but once you do it once, people can see the value of that. And that's what I do now, is I help people to find their story and tell it well.
And are you doing that with SMBs or mostly bigger brands?
Up until recently, mostly bigger brands. So I would have been up and down to Dublin a good bit, or doing a lot of like non-disclosure work with big ad agencies who don't have enough planning capacity, so they employ other people to do a little bit of work for them. But recently I've, through actually speaking to a lot of my friends, seen that actually there is value that can be added for small businesses as well.
Yeah.
And I have started collaborating with Virginia Foley and Up She Rises and Shan Horn and Muriel Foley from Hopkins. And what we're doing at the moment is actually brand boot camps for small businesses.
Very cool.
So we did one in Cork. We had a massive turnout, like just incredible feedback from that. So what I'm trying to do now is take the big brand processes and use them to enable small businesses.
That's fantastic, because I mean we do see an awful lot of people will come to us, and like you said, it is a do attitude.
Of course.
It's a blank sheet of paper.
No brief.
No brief, and all they want is, in terms of data, in terms of what are the conversions, what are my return on ad spend.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was to break down what it is I do, and it sounds like such a simple thing, is I help people write their brief in a way that makes life easier for them and easier for you.
Yeah.
So if there is someone out there, they own a small, medium-sized business, how would you tell them to get started thinking about their brand from a point of view of more than just the sheer figures of, or just seeing it as just a logo, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you've said something really important there, like a brand is not a logo. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is stop pretending that you have a business when you have a logo. I think people think I'm set up now. I have an accountant and I have a logo and a business card, and therefore I'm ready to go out and talk about my business. So I'd say just stop right there, and put pen to paper. So I listened to another podcast with Hilary Weiss, and I'm definitely on the same page as her. You need to put pen to paper before you start pretending that you're in business. That's what I'd say you're doing. You're pretending to be in business.
Yeah.
So I would say, you need to, in the brand bootcamp, actually, we broke it down to 3 ingredients. So you need to know, what is your insight? So an insight is something that you know about why your target market do what they do. Not what they're doing, but why they're doing it. So we talked about the feels, not the facts. And you add that to your brand identity, which is another template that you can use to build who you are, what you want to be famous for, what your tone of voice is going to be, how you want people to, and again, to echo Hilary, how you want people to feel. When they engage with you. And the challenge that I'll get there is, well, I'm a fin services company, I'm a mechanic, and I would say, doesn't matter. It's still about the feels. It doesn't matter. In fact, if you're in finance, that is one of the most emotive areas for people.
Look at Revolut.
Exactly.
It's
all about the feels, not the facts. So I'd say take your insight, take your brand identity. Who do you want to be? How do you want people to feel? What do you want to be famous for? And when you take those 2 things together, you develop what I call your brand benefit, which is what you can credibly say about your business that is motivating for people. So I think people think as well that businesses exist, to give people stuff. They don't. They exist to meet needs that people already have.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the second pitfall, which is, people actually don't take the time to do their market research. Like, it scares the living, can I curse?
You can curse, yeah.
Scares the living shit out of me when I meet a small business and they actually don't have a clue what they're talking about. So that's the other thing I'd say is stop being naive. Like, you have so much information at your fingertips. You don't need to give me 30 grand to do a fully fledged qual or quant research project for to be able to figure out whether or not there's room for what you're doing in the market. Like Pat Phelan would always say, whenever he's interviewed, research. You have to be totally sure that nobody else is doing what you're doing before you even spend 1 penny. So I can guarantee you he doesn't spend 30 grand on that. He gets his fingers out on his laptop and he has a really good look at what's there, or he goes out to people he knows and has cups of coffee with them. I mean, I'm hazarding guesses here, but that's what he does. So if you're a hairdresser in Spittle or something, there's no excuse for not having to think about what your hairdressing salon is going to do differently to everyone else.
I think that's the key. It's not even that there's another business that does what you do, even in the same target market. It's how you're going to do it differently or better, or create that more of an emotional attachment with the customers.
Absolutely. And
really
like some
that.
hairdressers could be just like fast fashion. Okay, this year it's balayage. I'm going to be all about promo on balayage for like young girls or whatever. And then for other people, it might be prestige, you know, all about kind of like colour specialisation, like working with women who have a higher disposable income or whatever. So like I totally dispute anyone who says that they don't know where their difference is or what they're doing. That's highly irresponsible as a business person. We're all in business to make money. So that's what I'd say about that.
I think for a lot of people there at that point as well, it's actually what they love most about their business is usually for a lot of people their actual competitive advantage and their unique selling point. In a sense, it's actually what they love the most because that's where they tend to throw their full heart into in the full part. Yeah. So sometimes it's just about asking yourself, what do I love most about what I do? And just kind of maybe starting from there is a very, very seed point of it.
And I think you've hit on something really important there, because I think also when people start a business, a small business, they can fall into that hole of, you know, looking at what everybody else is saying about being a financial advisor and saying the same thing. Yeah. Because that's what financial advisors say. Yeah. But like you said, if that's not your ownable thing you're passionate about, then you know nobody is going to hear what you're saying. You know, nobody's going to hear that because you don't even believe it. So what I always say as well is like your benefit, your tagline is at the intersection of what you can credibly do differently or better than anybody else, and what need you're meeting in the market. And if you can merge those two things, you just know. It's like an aha moment, you know. You're like,
and you can see the brands who get it right a mile away. There's a complete difference, because even say if Joe, a lot of people will put out video content now, and this is it trickling down to the very end, but if you don't own, or if you're not believing what you're saying, you can read it off someone's face, even just at really that very basic level, and not to mind at a full scale campaign with a brand, you know, going gung-ho on.
Absolutely. Like you really can. And what happens then is people just feel lost, they feel disengaged, they feel like a failure, they start doubting themselves, when it's such a simple exercise. Like I cannot impress enough how simple an exercise it is. Now obviously the writing itself and the finding the right words and the right language, different people are good at different things and they might not be great at writing, but like you do with your accounting, you know, people are like, whatever you don't do, just outsource it, like so that you can focus on doing what you do well. So like that, a lot of small businesses will meet me for a couple of hours to say, Kim, I have what I want to say, but I just can't quite say it like you can.
Or find the words to actually
and that's why people like exist, like who can just express what you want to say with a greater fluidity in a like better language, you know. So that's what I'd say is like you'll know, but like engage someone who can just help you to articulate that, you know.
Find your human thesaurus.
Yes, and thesaurus is literally one of my favorite things in the whole world. So when you're building your brand identity map, people will have like personality, innovative. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. Like I actually, in any workshop, I have one rule: thou shalt not use the word innovative, because it doesn't mean anything. You know, it doesn't mean anything anymore because everybody uses it.
It's become a buzzword.
Your word. What is it? You know, when I was working with the chamber, we saw obviously innovative in there, and I said, no guys, you know, innovative became dynamic, you know, because it's a changing city, it's evolving, and you know, so it's about finding your language and your words.
I remember doing that workshop with you in the chamber, and like coming out of it just going, that's what were we on about before? You know, like all of these different things. And then I remember even at the start we were kind of talking amongst ourselves, just kind of going, I wonder like what can really change. I mean, people know the chamber, people know this, that and the other, and then actually when you look at the language slightly different, you're going, oh, it's a little bit of a light bulb moment, all right, where you're going, we just weren't explaining it.
The chamber have a real challenge in that, you know, their challenge was, you know, we can't be everything to everyone. So who are we to who?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And like it's a distillation process. Like it takes a long time to write a short letter, right? Yeah. So you'll have this template. You'll say, okay, these are all the insights. These are all the, you know, the different words I could put in my brand identity map, you know, this is all the way I could express my benefit. But you need to go away and leave that and come back to it then a week later. Or leave it on the fridge and be like, do you know what? I have a much better word. And some of my best aha moments, including a lot of the insights for the chamber, happened at the Dunkettle interchange traffic light.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or at work for Leia, I'm like, I've got it. Leaving myself a voice note, because sometimes you need to be in a different headspace.
Yeah, definitely.
To land your DNA. Do you know, that kind of way? Like, you're not going to sit down with a pen and paper and write your brand.
It's not
going
to magic. Yeah.
You've got to feel it and live with it. And that's what I say to clients. I'll give them their brand identity map and my proposed, words for how they express themselves and a few lines that kind of show how we're going to talk about the brand. And like, go home, put that on your fridge, live with that for a week and see how stretchy it is.
Yeah.
Can you use that as a jump off point to talk about everything you do?
Yeah.
What's missing? Come back to me in a week and then we'll have a little tweak,
Things start flowing.
Yeah, really basic things. But like the thing I've shouted most about since I moved to Cork and lecturing and working with the chamber and working with anyone is you need to take a step back to make a leap forward.
Yeah.
Has to be done. Agencies in Cork, like Cliq, like anyone else, need to start doing the groundwork and stop taking a blank page and saying you're going to work with it. Actually, the best thing you can do for yourself is say, we will actually develop a brief with you, but without a brief, there is no business. It's not good use of your time or money, and it's not good use of our time either.
It is interesting, like, to see, there's some businesses and they will come in with their brand guidelines and they'll have their message and they'll have that, which is fantastic. But then, like you said, an awful lot, zero. And that I think that is with digital. I think that is starting to change because there is no hiding out there. You go to Google, your business is there, everything is there, your messaging is there, your testimonials are there. So if you're not on top of that, your message and your branding, then it's going to be detrimental really in the long term.
Yeah, or even people coming in with brand guidelines and going, here they are. Just that's it. There's a sheet, there's my fonts, here's my logo, and they've had and here's my colours.
That's just the logo.
That's just an extension of the logo. Yeah. That is not what we're talking about here either. It's not that you haven't nailed down your exact font and your exact hex.
Yeah,
and
fonts,
all of these,
actually so many clients have come to me and we're scoping out a project and they're looking for maybe what I do a lot of in Cork is values, vision and mission building is actually kind of what I've been doing most actually recently in Cork. Businesses who want to get into a more strategic space, they want to start applying for awards, and they have to talk about their values and their vision and their mission. And I say, okay, well, what about your brand? What about your brand story? Oh, I have a brand guidelines document. And I'll get it and it will be like that. Yeah. The brand, what it looks like on a pen, what it looks like on a mug. Yeah. And I'm like, this is not brand guidelines. This is your logo guidelines. This is usage of your logo document. So I think you need to be really careful as well when you're buying something from a design house or an agency is what are you really getting for your money? Yeah. You really need to be very, very cautious about that. Yeah. Because I think sometimes the expectation is not met. You expect to have a lot more than you do, and it's not good for the agency and it's not good for the client. But just on what you mentioned there about the briefing, I don't know, did I do it in a couple of the lectures, Jen, that you would have seen, but there's what I call the challenge identifier, and it's a framework I developed myself to help me take a brief.
I have it, yeah.
I'd say you use it every day in here. I do. So it's basically 7 questions to get to the challenge. So if a client comes to you, and if at the end of the briefing session or thereafter when you have had time to distill all the other stuff a client will tell you in a meeting like that, like who they like in work and who they don't, which sometimes can also be of use. Yes. If you can't distill their challenge down to one sentence, you don't have a brief and you don't understand what the brief is. So that's really, really useful. And I have been using that for years, and it doesn't matter how many times I do it, I will print it and I will bring it with me on an A3 sheet with my pen.
And off you go.
And the wonderful thing about it is then when you go back to them in a proposal, you can mirror their language, you can use phrases that they've given you, and 90% of the time the challenge they think you're going to address is actually not the challenge at all. And it's amazing when you go back to a client and say, well, I know you came to me for A, but it's really about X, Y, and Z, isn't it? They're like, you so understand.
yeah.
And so before they've even given you a penny, that trust is built.
Yeah.
So concepts that you come to them with, they're far more likely to respond positively to, which is brilliant for you guys as an agency.
Yeah.
You know? So I would definitely use that if you're not
Cool.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I suppose we talked a lot around the brand and the business itself. I suppose one thing companies have a problem with, and so we even find it here ourselves. Who is our ideal customer? What does our ideal customer actually look like?
Yeah.
Because when you're a startup, it's like everybody's my ideal customer.
And there's big businesses who say everybody too.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
really, when you break it down, especially in the client service industry, there is a specific
max 3 ever, maybe 2.
But even as you say, like take someone, but you mentioned Mondelez there. I'm sure they've all their different product segments. Each of those segments is for a different type of customer.
Yes, it is.
And again, that is most businesses. They don't think of who is my perfect customer. I think.
But I also think that's because they think that big businesses go after loads of people as well. And I think, like I was saying to Jen, what they need to realise is, on the contrary, most big businesses are after one person. So like I was giving you the example of Guinness.
Yeah.
Like Guinness, I mean, if I was to say to most people who is Guinness's target audience, they were like, well, my dad, my granddad, my brother, but it isn't. It's like in around that 25-year-old male. And what they do to onboard new customers, because the product is so good, once people start drinking it, they tend to be repeat customers. But to actually engage new blood as old blood passes on, and to keep that volume of sales up, they play on that place between who you are and who you aspire to be. And I'm sure you'll relate to this, guys, as, males over the age of 25. When you reach that late 20s, but, you do get to a point where you want everybody to know that you are a grown-up, that you're a man, that you can make discerning choices about the drinks that you drink. And that's the space that they play in. So that's the insight is, I'm guessing. The insight is, it's that transition between being a boy and being a man. I'm not drinking Heineken anymore. I'm going to sit and slowly savour a pint of Guinness. So you would be forgiven for thinking that they talk to lots of people.
Yeah.
But they don't. They just make sure they don't alienate another audience that they might engage with. So if you can't break it down to kind of 1 or 2 core markets, you haven't done your research. And you are never going to speak effectively to anyone, because you're going to speak ineffectively to a ton
everyone.
of people.
Yeah.
I think that's actually something that I haven't actually had the language for before, and it's actually really good, is that a lot of people think that by segmenting they're alienating, but they're actually not. They're just focusing and avoiding alienating. Then will give you that little bit of broad spectrum to.
And what do most brands do?
Yeah.
They do one thing really well.
Yeah, exactly.
And they capitalize on that. Like even like runners, film companies, like, TV stations, financial companies, they will always have a hero product that actually keeps their business in business.
The bread and butter,
and even banking, like, there's very specific segments like AIB, Bank of Ireland, PTSB are huge businesses with massive resources, but they are really only ever focused on 1 or 2 people at a time. Look at Ulster Bank. There about 5 or 6 years ago, they decided they were going to sit in on, the dynamic millennial who needed to have a chat on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Because they were so busy with their 80-hour weeks. But guess what? People switched banks, which is virtually impossible to get people to do. To switch banks. Because they talked effectively to one audience.
One market.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think with digital as well, it's so easy to customize your message for different audiences as well. Totally. Like especially where you have a multi-product offering that where you want to reach out to different audiences. It's an absolute no-brainer.
But to take it back a step, you need to know what you're saying to them.
Oh, 100%.
So that's the insight part is, what do you know about who they are as people that you can say, we get you.
Yeah.
We are so on board with your needs and we are so genuine about it. And, then you can do your as Muriel calls it, your pitch, play, plunge, or whatever tactics. Like, show me, then engage me and dive me in through the digital execution.
Yeah.
So, but you can't do that if you have the wrong message, you know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So Kim, if they're listening to this, and they're like, oh my God, we've done none of this. If you were to give them kind of three tips, I suppose, to get that groundwork sorted, basically, kind of what would you suggest they start doing ASAP?
Well, there's kind of three things I would say there. So number one is, I would say, you know, have a think about your challenge identifier. So like, what is it that you actually want to do if you're trying to do digital marketing? That is a brief in itself. Forget about Facebook knowledge, tools, pixels. Forget that for a minute, because they can engage people like you to help with that. Put pen to paper and ask yourself, what is the challenge that I'm trying to address here? What's getting between me and making more money? You have to do that before you think about what channel you're going down. So more than happy if you have clients who are interested, Jen, for you to share that template with them.
Yeah, I'll share that.
You to talk them through it.
Yeah, I'll share that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the second thing I would say is go back to your pen and paper. So you need your insight, you need your brand identity to know what it is you're credibly, distinctively saying about what you do. So that's a very simple equation. It's knowing something really interesting around why your customers are doing what they're doing. So I'll give you an example. SMA is an example we always used years ago. They were basically capitalizing on accolades and insights. Like, they were, I have an award for this, I have an award for that, but they were competing in exactly the same space as Aptamel, and therefore not cutting through it all. So what they learned when they talked to their audience was, not only were they just talking to mums, they said they just talk to first-time mums, right? And their message was, we get that not everything comes naturally or instinctively, and you're doing fine.
Yeah.
And their whole campaign then, as anyone, probably more females than males will remember, is you're doing fine. You know, and all the ads were around reassuring them that it's all gravy. They're doing a great job. And that did really, really well for them, you know. So what is that for you? What is that for your business? What is your SMA insight? Or with Leia, and the guys have given me permission to use their insight for their corporate wellness program, which we developed together. And it was, members want to be empowered to live better. And it was about a more holistic approach to healthcare. The self-care revolution is here. Totally different message from VHI, right? Totally credible coming from Leia, because they kick ass at that stuff. And it was, it's good to live. You know, so it's all about living, not dying or being sick. What's your insight? What's your version of that? Then you add that to your brand identity. You can Google a brand essence map. I don't need to, I obviously have one that's far better than the one but it gives you a really good idea of what to fill out, like your brand personality, how you make people feel, what you want to be famous for, you know. And when you've got those two things, you ask yourself, well, what is the pitch here? You know, what's the one line? So for me, it's, you know, that my clients are overwhelmed and they need information to be broken down so that they can see clearly their path to decision making. And my DNA is all about lucrative liberation, freedom to make more money and be confident about making those decisions to make more money. So the benefit I sell is liberating my clients to make better decisions that grows their business, right? That's all pen to paper work. And then, and again, I'm happy to share this with you guys if you want, then you can fill out this lovely brief and come to your agencies. They will love you. You will spend...
We will love you.
Less money. You will spend less money getting better work that generates a better return, that builds trust with your agency, and, you know, that gives you guys the freedom to focus your creative energy on stuff that has a high propensity to deliver traction for your client. So I'm happy to plug in the challenge identifier if people want to bring a good brief to you or to their own people in the industry. And then out the other side, you know, what exactly is that brief? And I'm more than happy to share that with you too. But it's a pen to paper exercise, guys. Like there's no excuse for it. And if you're really crap at writing, do a crap job getting the good messages down and ask someone who's really good at talking to finesse that for you. And everybody has a friend.
Yeah,
who's
everyone
good
knows
at
articulating
articulating what, you know, the friend who's like, yeah, that's what I meant to say. That's the word I was looking for.
Will you check my cover letter for me? That friend.
Marketing.
No,
They can be,
just
your
good
friend
with
who's
words.
an English teacher.
Yeah.
You know? So you don't need to spend money to have a strong message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you do want to spend money, there are people like me.
And where can people find you if they're looking for you, if you want to?
I'm mainly on Instagram, which is a bit baby filled at the moment because I'm on mat leave, but at Kimmy Cooks.
Yeah.
This is ethos.ie is my website. And what I would like to say is if you want to actually put pen to paper with assistance, we're the Spice Girls, the dream team as we're calling ourselves. We're doing a second date in Cork for the brand boot camp.
Oh, fantastic. When's that?
Yes, because it's really high demand, and we're going cross country on it as well. So if you have people around Ireland, we'll be in
hitting the road,
Tip and Galway and Kerry and all this stuff. So keep your eye out on that. Follow Virginia Foley at Up She Rises. I'll obviously plug those dates as well, but anyone, even if you're already in business, say tomorrow Cliq decides want to refresh how we talk about ourselves, be there. Like it's for businesses that are already out there and businesses who are just starting. So all of the stuff we talked about today, we'll have that in a whole half day session and then some.
Great.
Brilliant.
Fabulous.
Kim, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
That's been this week's episode of the Digital Marketing Scoop.